Welcome to Windmill 2025. We are loving the vibes here in Amsterdam and rolling into the semi-finals in the women's division. Boy, do we have a game in store for you. It is the host Grut of Amsterdam versus the team trying to be the best of Bogota. It's AEROSOUL from Colombia, myself, Hannah Pendlebury, alongside Benji Rees, and I am so hyped for this one.
Everything just gets turned up. I was going to say a notch. A whole multitude of notches when you get into bracket play. The Swiss draw phase is done. And now, no worry about the point differential, your ranking algorithm. No, you've just got to beat the team that's in front of you. 2 games separate you from a Windmill gold medal.
Indeed they do. At the moment, it's Tokyo Mavericks taking the top spot after the Swiss draw. They'll be facing up against the 4th-seeded East Block. Elsewhere on the field complex, here, of course, our sister stream featuring the Open Division with another Grut team in it. But this one focusing our eyes, of course, it's been an undefeated campaign for the European champion host so far, Benji.
Yeah, and you might be wondering, well, why are they ranked below Tokyo Mavericks when they're undefeated and they beat Tokyo Mavericks in a head-to-head matchup? Because there's an uneven number of teams in the division, it means that one team has a bye every round, and for Grut they had a bye round yesterday, so they haven't necessarily had as many games in order to level out that ranking. And yeah, it's just dinged them a little bit, but the most important thing is it doesn't matter how clear you are, you get into the top 4, and at the moment it looks like Grut and Mavericks could be on a collision course for another rematch in the final. That is, if East Block or AEROSOL can't spring the upset.
Indeed, and that would be the 5th matchup we've had for them this week. Of course, Mavericks coming across and having a Tomodachi invite on foreign soil, coming across to Amsterdam, doing some homestays, some lovely, wonderful home cooking as well. But AEROSOL making the journey with a roster of just 11 players all the way here. This is their campaign to prepare themselves for regionals and nationals, which will be happening in August and October, respectively, back home in Colombia. And, of course, they're keeping their eyes on the prize of winning that one and getting a bid, of course, to the World Championships in 2026.
Yeah, we know precisely the strength and depth of the Colombian women's division, so you need to make sure you're in absolute peak form and condition. What better way to warm up than a transatlantic trip to Amsterdam?
And it is a wonderful place to be. We have been enjoying some cycles between our hotel and this wonderful complex. Of course, though, you can't attend a tournament like this and never camp. But it will be about trying to build a fence around this Grut team for AEROSOL when they're on defense, because, of course, we know the athletes in green and gold love to throw a deep shot. But the more traditional Colombian style will be shown from AEROSOL. Shorter passes, zippy movement, but that's a nice gainer for the underneath. Dish taken away, but sails too far. Jenny Valentina Medina Garcia with the first turnover of the game.
Going to give a good opportunity here, Grut, to begin to assert dominance on this game, which you can be sure they want to.
Dam sends that very high. We do have a bit more of a feisty breeze this afternoon on our second day of the action. Lustkron, one of the previous tournament organisers here, more focusing on the playing aspect this time. Then around to Janssen. High release again, just sailing on the breeze and just about realises she's in the end zone. Grab Felisa Holrab will open up the game with a break.
Yeah, I think if you're familiar with European Ultimate at the moment, you know there's a fair few Frisbee families going around, and the Janssens, Walter Janna, and the youngest one there who you saw with the score, Fele Janssen, or with the assist, I should say, excuse me, just utilising that far sideline, which is on that break side, to give themselves potentially lots of open side to work with, or alternatively they can just continue that swing and that break throw down the sideline. Janssen fearless, taking on the shot to Walderab for the score. Remember seeing Fele Janssen for the first time in 2017 in Veenendaal when she was playing for the U17s, and I think she was 12.
It's wild, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
you look across the roster sheet for this Grut side, and there's so many of them have been playing since they were barely in double digits for their age. Of course, massive credit to all the junior development programs, and 2 coaches coming alongside this AEROSOL Ultimate Club, Christian Chavarro and Felipe Diaz, who were giving us the insights on the sideline earlier. So Boss with the pull for the second D point for Grut. That's going to sail out of bounds, though. Too much time in the gym, perhaps.
Yeah, in terms of the form for both these sides coming into this game. Grut only had 4 games in the Swiss draw phase. They beat both other Colombian sides, La Septima and Bamboo, as well as victories over Tokyo Mavericks and 3SB. For Aerosol, victories over Deep Sea Mermaids, Dublin Gravity and 3SB, but defeats to Tokyo Mavericks and a universe point loss to East Block in their previous game. But it was enough to make sure that they qualified for the top 4, which is the most important thing.
Dorado with the give-go, swipes around, but comes up wanting is Susanna Slob, but it goes easy pickings for Elisa Boss instead. Slightly frustrated shot, trying to connect with Myrna. Oh, and just about escapes the grasp of the flying form. Medina Garcia putting in the effort, but it's Boss with the curvature on the forehand. A beautiful leading pass to Annemarie Bone.
Yeah, Bone stretching the field there on the receiving end. The huck that went deep, in truth, is probably a little bit underthrown. You've got going through the centre of the field as well, where there's going to be more traffic. But you could say, well, they picked the right defender to throw against, because in terms of the matchup, just not necessarily packing the size that would have potentially made the block possible, because you'll see it here on the replay. She's really close to it, and perhaps a slightly longer frame, a bigger wingspan would meant that she would be able to get a tip on that. As it was, nothing doing, and Boss to Bone gives Grut a second break, both clean breaks as well, to come into a big early lead. And Aerosol taking an early time out here because they were so keen to stop the bleeding, and they don't want to get this game to be over as a contest before it's really started. And the quality of this Grut side, they can do that.
Well, we are seeing flashes as well of the quality of Aerosol. It's just, I mean, that one was just a curious throw into danger.
I must admit, when it went up, I thought there's at least 1-2 defenders in the area, and you're not giving yourself a particularly large angle to hit there. You'd have to really, I mean, deliver that to perfection, a triple Michelin star dish. And as it was, yeah, there's just way too much traffic, and it was greedily gobbled up by Elisa Boss.
Well, we're officially out of Stroop waffles in the broadcast area.
What?
I know. We're going to get a new box for tomorrow, don't worry.
Oh. Also, to clarify, I did know I've eaten about half of them.
But of course, it's talking about cuisine. It's some of the lesser-known dishes that you get in this region. Of course, stroopwafel is one of those many culinary delights coming out of the Netherlands.
Yeah, I will say Windmill's not particularly good for my waistline, so it's a good job that we're cycling to and from the venue, because otherwise I would come back a lot larger than when I entered.
Well, and with this Western-style theme, we've even got some bar action that's bang on trend, some cactus beers from the craft tent. Oh, bobble game for 1 of pinball, but it just sneaks over the shoulder at the last moment. Medina Garcia with a little bit of unlucky movement there, but Grut will look to pounce once again. Minard on the far sideline. Fakes and shakes that inside. Very flat mark. I think they might be wise to the fact that Minard is someone with every throw in the toolbox, and it's a leader pass, a high grab. Again, it's Lisa Wolrab for the goal.
Yeah, both goals in this end zone have come to Wolrab's hands, and Anne Minard was left really isolated. And when we get a look at it on the replay, you'll see that there's no one particularly close. But I think just that connection from playing with Lola Dam for so many years, both, you know, for the Dutch national sides, the youth divisions, you know, when Grut were a mixed outfit as well, those two are so comfortable playing with each other. There's the turnover, just in and out again of Henny Medina's hands. But it's a wonderful high-release flick to access that space, and then the continuation to Wolrab, who makes a really nice grand with that right hand.
Yeah, Jenny Valentina Medina Garcia, who uses all 4 of her names. I checked before the game. It's the Latin names, of course, the mother and the father surname coming together in sort of representing traditionally. And some athletes like to use one or the other, but clearly a very key part of this team. When you only have 11 on your roster, you don't give yourself too much rest between points to really kind of figure these things out. So it's good that they've got the 2 coaches alongside to make those tactical adjustments. But
yeah, some players from the Grut O-line are just going through some throwing here on the sideline, which I think is good, because while it's great to have your D-line get onto a big roll to start the game, the risk is, you know, you've warmed up and then it can be another 15-20 minutes sometimes before you take the field, and then all of a sudden all that energy is kind of dissipated from out of you and you come in a little bit cold and often you end up getting broken yourself. So you need to try and stay active and stay involved. That ball went out of bounds quite a way up.
Indeed. So a gift at half field for Aerosol. Gomez to get us started. One of the players who's going to do damage both with her throws hitting the deep space as well as being a very rapid deep defender. Ramos sends that one a little bit high. There's going to be redemption underneath it. No, not quite. The layout is there, but Correa Gomez cannot bring it in.
It was tipped, and it was a good effort there to notice that there's potentially the opportunity for a follow-up, but it was too far out of bounds and unable to be retrieved.
So Jana Janssen picking up the disc. Loving these high release forehands. They do have generally a little couple of inches on most of the athletes. Myrna with the turnaround to make the recovery. I believe that's her third season with Grut now, and that is a lovely, slick, connected piece of offense. Annemarie Boon with her second goal.
Yeah, Walrop scores in one end zone, and then Annemarie Boon scores in the other. This time it's Justin van der Meulen who's feeding her for the score. I mean, Grut are looking mighty crisp at the moment. Everything seems to be going their way. You know, Aerosol, sometimes they've got unlucky, sometimes they've made mistakes, but Grut, you know, they're showing all their quality. Now that they're into bracket play especially, they do tend to lock in a little bit more, as we saw at EUCF when they had that fairy tale title run in their first season in the single-gender divisions. Getting a little offhand there, and then kind of feed it down the sideline. And then from there you can see, if we just have a look at the numbers, there's so many. It was 4-on-2 at one point. Eventually, defenders get back into position, but it's too little, too late for the score.
Well, and Grut said they were looking forward to potentially a higher level of opposition in the semi-finals, but they are, I think, leaving Aerosol a little bit dazed. This is the third of the, well, all three Colombian teams that Grut are facing in the tournament. They made quick work of Bamboo, and what I say, yeah, and La Septima as well. 16, so, goodness gracious me, Hannah. 15-6 against Bamboo and 52 against La Septima. So I think maybe it's safe to say that Grut are well aware of how to defend against the Colombian style of offense.
I thought you were going to say that Grut are now Colombian national champions, which I'm not sure is quite how it works. I think there are some other Colombian sides that might have a thing to say about that, but so far, yes, I think it probably does help that they've played two Colombian sides already, and they won't play in exactly the same way, but different ultimate cultures tend to have similar styles, you know, similar tendencies, and it feels like just with a couple of games under their belt, they've been able to perhaps key on those a little bit more.
Well, I do love this mental reset that they're getting with the sort of on-the-line little ritual. It's a good way to try and mentally refocus yourself. And I tell you what, the eyes of Medina Garcia looked really locked in indeed. But a bricked pole gives another opportunity, but it's fired way behind Medina Garcia.
And that shot is open, but just the execution is off.
Well, they've been real shaken, not stirred, going 4-0 down to start this one off. And that's a lovely inside break, cheeky from Anna Minard. And again, it's Walrab in the end zone.
They just have that synergy, and when we can watch it on the replay, you can see that there's a very clear plan for how they want to set this offensive point up. They're just, D-line seems so locked in, and so often you think D-lines, you've got shooters who are going to shoot. But there's the turn, the disc a little bit behind, tries to stretch as she's coming forward, but the plan here is clear. They're going to go with its inside shot to Dam, who's come off the front there, and then continue immediately step into that backhand to Walrab. And how do you stop that? Because those inside flicks, you really want to come across and say, well, let's go flatter, but you know they've got those around breaks as well.
I mean, having someone matching up against Lola Dam might have been an idea, because she did look very open.
Yeah,
And obviously, she's a very fast athlete, but you didn't see her moving into that space in the replay. She was just stood still as a target. No one with her.
What's interesting to me about at least that iteration of Grut's D-line is they've got Anne Menard as their key handler, and for so long she's been a rock of their O-line. You know, even in the mixed division when Grut were, I mean, at their swashbuckling peak maybe, you know, she was the one player you could rely on to always make good sound decisions and not necessarily make the flashy play. So to have her as a D-line handler, which is normally your traditional shooter position, I think just gives them that air of calm and nervelessness that, yeah, does not look like a D-line offense to me.
Well, I mean, of course, we saw Anna Menard absolutely destroying folks in the open division at U24 level in 2023.
I think I said that. I love Anna Menard's game. I think it's, you know, there's that thing about one of the key things you look at is composure, and when everything's going on, when games are getting absolutely ballistic, who's the player who's just going to be like, okay, cool, I'm just going to do my own thing, you know, not get out of rhythm, not get out of phase. And yeah, a player who I think as well sometimes doesn't necessarily get the spotlight she deserves, with a number of big name teammates as well. That's just another overthrow.
Well, at the moment, Aerosol really giving it up easy, making Grut's job all that much lighter. You see Van der Meulen. Oh, you cheeky thrower. Despite the bid underneath it, that one goes directly into Susanna Slob. And I mean, that one's just exposure of the height differential.
Yeah, Aerosol are making good decisions. You know, it's not as if they're hucking it into double coverage necessarily. They're taking the right options, but they're just not executing them, and that might be more frustrating, because there are sometimes, if you're making bad decisions, you can say, okay, here's the clear plan, we will reset more, we won't take those hucks on, for example. But they're doing the right things, but they're just not executing on them, and sometimes that can be so tough to snap yourself out of that slump, because Aerosol are a better side than this. We've seen that this tournament, but it just hasn't quite worked for them so far. The plan, it's clear. It's handler gets the disc, they'll slash a little bit diagonally towards that break side from the front of stack, a leading inside shot there, and then they'll find the continuation to the end zone, either with the around, or maybe they'll follow up on the inside as well. And Grut, I think, is going to get some more of their O-line players out there, just because, you know, it's 6-0 and they've not touched the disc, they've not touched the field yet, and I think they're conscious that they just need to get them some time on the pitch. I
mean, I do find it amazing that you've got Aurora Leshnek on your O-line if you're Grut.
For me, I love Aurora's game, but she, for me, was the epitome of a D-line handler, because she loves unwinding the arms and uncorking those deep bombs, but she's so dynamic as an athlete. I think you want to get her involved in the game as much as possible, and you know that she's going to play great defense after the turn, should you surrender it.
Well, that is a lovely deep shot off Gomez's hand, but it is taken away by the speedster herself, Christina Tluster, with a little bop and block.
More and more people are aware of just how rapidly Christina Tluster covers the ground. You know, you think about her running through teams with a throw and go style, or being a little bit of a finisher, but the reason that works is she can play with pace and with tempo, because she covers ground so quickly. Doesn't matter that she's, you know, not tall, so she doesn't necessarily have the long, large stride patterns. She just seems to glide so effortlessly across the turf.
Well, and that's one of the things that you can do when you are a player that's a bit more of a pocket rocket. I think you can bait a lot of those deeper shots by being, oh no, I'm just here a couple of meters deep, like underneath you, and then the shot goes and she just closes that window, almost like it's starting to rain outside. Kularts to Leshnek. Bus playing a little bit out of position, just sauntering around upfield. Tizik. Nice scoop on that backhand, well collected by Bus. Kulart's decided not to uncork it.
It's not a decision I would have made.
Well, that one's going to have a redemption opportunity, though, for Aerosol. They snaffle it back. Sends Torado.
It's the first time Grut have turned it over in this contest.
Gomez. Nice high dish. Well, we talked about the O-line being a little bit cold. Johnson now, one of the North Americans on this Aerosol club side. So Torado puts it through. There's a foul call, which I think will be quickly accepted here by the looks of the body language coming off of Tluster.
It's Tluster up against Natalia Bocanegra Gomez, who many of our European viewers will recognise, of course, played for a number of years with Yaka.
A little bit of swish and dish from Gomez. Oh, that is a beautiful high release inside. Finding a fellow Gomez, Valentina this time. Then through to Torrado. Oh, and that one, again, an accepted strip.
Yeah, just trying to wind up for the release, and Kilart's inadvertently knocked it out of her grasp.
Indeed, extension of the... Well, I'm not even going to finish that sentence. That was a really nice bit of taking a leaf out of Grut's book. A high release to the soft side for the goal, and that ends the drought for Aerosol.
Yeah, Natalia Gomez there, just doing such superb work. A little flick. There's the deep shot that Talister was able to get a paw on. And then Bas trying to find this inside, just floats it up ever so slightly. And then this high release was working so well for Grut. And so Natalia Gomez there, who I think I've confused with her namesake.
Indeed, she's a Canadian, actually, from her early days of playing. A Sixers ultimate athlete. But maybe we should say they should go on the same team at some point.
And you know what? And actually I can see the cap as well. I might be confusing myself. Like, I know I've seen this face before and I recognise the name, but I've confused my Natalia Gomezes, so please accept my humblest apologies.
Yeah, to give the full one, it's Natalia Gomez Dominguez. Of course, it's a slightly softer pronunciation on European soil for Spanish names.
See?
As my friends with their Argentinian heritage continue to remind me. And of course, some wise coach's words as well for Grut.
Yeah, it means that the O-line who were out there to play defence have got scored on, and now we've got to go out there and play offence again. Interesting to see that they're using Bas as part of the O-line, given that they're not normally a part of this roster. Obviously play with Yaka for a number of years, but you know, when Yaka are not around, as they are not here at Windmill, they've chosen to play with Grut, and Grut are happy to have them in the fold.
Although they will be playing with Grut next EUCS season, allegedly. They put it in their survey for the Tomodachi invite.
Interesting.
Indeed. So Leshnik, the crossfitter, through to Bas. Nice scoop, reaching with a break, just pickpocketing the mark. A little flat on the inside, but well saved by Tizik.
She made that look so smooth.
Oh, always does, coming back from mat leave, but it's going to be Bas into the end zone, a little gallop over the tape and a slap for Tluster with the assist.
Really good opportunities there at throwing to space. If you look at it again on the replay, you'll see that they're creating these huge pockets and they're getting the throws out nice and early, and it means that the disc, you know, rather than trying to bullet it on, they can just put it with a little touch and finesse. If you have a look on the replay, we'll look at it when Tizik gets up, and if he pulls it here, you'll see that there is that big space, huge side of the end zone. If we have a look over towards this far side, that there's no one there at all, but rather than throw it right at Talister and really bullet it, they're putting it with a lot of sit and loft, and it gives space Talister time to trace it down. And what I love as well is Bas is first there to provide the backup for the score.
Well, I think, Benji, this one might be a little bit influenced by the legs. I know we mentioned that Aerosol, they have 13 players on their normal club roster, so they're used to playing with relatively short lines, but against Grut, who have more than double the player base, and they're all diamonds, as we see that great grab from Medina Garcia.
I mean, also, you've got to consider that for Grut, they're on home turf. They can sleep in their own beds, while obviously you come all the way from the Columbia. You wouldn't surprise me if you've even still got a bit of jet lag in there.
Well, and I need to apply the tip X to myself. That was Gomez, not Medina Garcia. And Gomez again, just a little teddy bear roll to keep possession secure. Then a nice high release to Ramos. One of the taller athletes for Aerosol. Great person coverage, applying the pressure. Gomez reaching up high. Oh, and that is an absolute find. just mining the space, and that is a nice hold, clean as a whistle at long last for Aerosol.
Yeah, their first clean hold of the game. You did feel that once they finally got that first point on the board, they would settle a little bit. But if you can't get it in early, then it feels like everything, the world is closing in on you, like you've stepped on a trap in a survival horror game, and the walls are coming closer and closer, and you know that there's an item somewhere in your inventory that's going to get you out of it. Eventually they found it, and once you have, you just have that sigh of relief that comes over you, and actually, you kind of don't know what you were ever afraid of in the first place.
I mean, what they've got is a pocket full of Natalia Gomez.
Also, I've just seen Herbie looking very mighty fine, kind of being driven away in a golf cart.
Oh, I mean, Herbie always rides the gator around the pitch site here. He's currently there behind us with the fetching pink tutu as always, although cowboy theme, the Wild West out here this year's Windmill.
Yeehaw, partner.
Yes, indeed. We're having some... one of the jingles is particularly punctuating of the field site. It's really high as that one sails back down to earth. Bus has Coulards on the underneath. Good switch from Aerosol to preserve some legs. Then Bardul. High dish. And again... not really moving in to apply too much pressure to these loftier throws. The switching, trying to shepherd Grut into different spaces. Barduro receives from Leshnik, who will then sail up line. Just playing really fundamentally good Frisbee until that last pass where it overshoots.
Yeah, it was there, but I think Leshnik, looking at the hands, being like, I just needed a little bit of extra backspin on it to bite against the breeze and hold up in the back of that end zone.
Yeah, not an athlete that is so easy to overthrow, but I think Kulaks wasn't expecting that to be quite so dicey. They've had a lot of success with a high release on the forehands, have Grut so far, but a massive opportunity here for Aerosol to drag one of those breaks back.
Sick layout.
Legit. Nadina Garcia this time going to ground, being rewarded for that hard work she's been putting in all game long so far. A skyrocket and another great catch, but the ground strip on the backside of it. Gwen Johnson unable to hang on.
Yeah, the cork uncorked it.
Well, that's uncorked for sure on this cork turf. This time it's a great connection. They'll be making it to work on time. Floor Coulards with the goal. Yeah,
that was the only problem last time, was that they were too close to the end zone. Give yourself a little bit more room to work with, and you can just feather it, utilising the full depth of the field to give an 8-2 half-time lead.
Well, at the moment, I think there's going to have to be some special stuff found in this half-time break for Aerosol. They are not looking the finesse, although we've had some trading out and that one clean hold. They're going to have to find something feisty. Benji, if you had anything to give advice-wise on how to get more breaks off of Grut, what would you do?
Maybe some witchcraft.
Go and speak to Herbie, see if you can bribe him.
I think you've got to be conscious of, you know, they are tough, they are great players who can make great plays at any possible moment, but I think slowing them down is so important, because they are human, they do make mistakes, as we've seen over the past couple of points. Nothing major, but just an error here or there, and so if you can prevent the really quick score, then often, you know, just make the point drag out and you can coax the error out. Well,
at the moment it's half-time hanging out, 8-2 over Aerosol.
The 2025 club season is upon us, and Ultiworld is bringing you all the action. Ultiworld is the best place for live video, news, highlights, and analysis of your favorite teams and players.
Bartlett scores again.
Make sure to subscribe for our extensive live coverage of the USAU club season, including the thrilling club championships in San Diego in October, exclusively on Ultiworld. Get the ultimate news you need to know with the Deep Look podcast. I'm Charlie Eisenhood.
And I'm Keith Rayner. And together we bring the games, names, and moments in Ultimate to your podcast feed. We talk Ultimate's biggest news from on and off the field, about and with the people making it.
And every week we go live on YouTube. Come join the fun, the trivia, the picks, the analysis, and more, Tuesdays at noon Eastern Time.
We'll see you there.
Half-time in the women's division semi-finals at Windmill 2025. Day 2 of the action, and it seems that Aerosol may have lost some legs over the course of this journey. Their 11-strong roster faltering against a much more fully flushed Grut squad, 8-2.
Yeah, elsewhere, we mentioned the semi-finals going on in the women's division and in the open division as well. We'll start with the other women's semi-final. Maybe an upset in the offing because East Block have a 5-3 lead over Tokyo Mavericks. In the open division, we are streaming one of the semi-finals on our other field where Sultan Bank have an 8-5 lead over the Grut open side. Nomadic Tribe currently lead Comunidad El Oso 5-3.
Indeed, and if you want to catch every moment of that sister stream, get yourself an all-access pass and you'll allow yourself to do the dream of ultimate coverage, of see all
the dual screen.
Well, yeah, but also all that depth, the bucket of history that exists if you get an all-access subscription. Of course, your standard packs will get you access to the Discord as well, so you can actually communicate with the likes of Benji Rees and pick his brain yourself.
Yeah, sorry about that.
You live in that Discord.
No comment. Just wanted to have a look at how Grut were setting up that offense before they scored to take us into the second half. And I just want to have a little pause because I want to point out that they're making very clear big spaces. If we have a look, there's no one too close, so you've got roughly equal gaps. Making a little triangle there, but the idea is that you're staying relatively connected, but you're never too far away, so keeping a clear eye, and then when someone clears out, you have someone else come in to fill that space.
It just reminds me of the three-person weave used to play indoors back in the days at university. Oh, that's too much on it. Bordeaux, though, will track it down, keeping eyes on the prize.
Yeah, if you're not careful, this wind will catch you come a cropper.
Well, there have been a couple of times when Grut have thrown some significantly looser discs, but they've come away with it because of their general stature and height. But that's a full-on escape. Houdini herself, Florcularts with the goal.
How is a player like Florcularts able to get that open? Because you feel like surely she should be, have a player in close quarters at all times, but then you look up and down the roster and it's like, well, if we're trying to roll extra coverage onto her, then you're leaving it off someone else, and that also feels like a bit of a misstep. Zipped breakout here from Talista and Bass. It's just an easy, simple backhand from them for the score.
I would love to see Aerosol adjust their match coverage and play with a little bit more in-pocket person defense, that really familiar style that we're used to. At the moment, especially in the center of the field, they're just stepped off. They're trying to bracket, they're trying to conserve their energy, and the switching is good, but you just have to be a little bit closer because that throw for Jette Bardol that she had to track down, they aren't picture perfect, this Grut team. There are seams that you can see some daylight through.
See, that is the thing for me, but because they are short-numbered, you can't necessarily say we'll go strict, quote-unquote, honest match-up defense. We'll take a person and stick with them the whole time because they've got so much numbers they can just run you straight into the ground. So I think they're doing the right thing in trying to be smart and be proactive and look for switches so you don't have to tire yourself out as much. The problem is Grut are recognising those and finding those pockets to attack.
Well, much like that amazing shot that was depth of field trying to be exploited by Aerosol, but Grut are ready and waiting nearly the recovery from Slob, but this is the recovery now for Aerosol with a short field. Attacks the inside channel, good to move the mark around and opens up the door of opportunity. That is a nice easy goal for Zulay Senstorado.
Yeah, first time round that deep shot, Janne Jansen was all over it, and then rather than take the calm walk to the front of the end zone, said, actually, we've got the opportunity here. Played the short pass for Myrna, who looked to continue it, but the defender was close enough, and yeah, I think Myrna maybe just didn't quite appreciate how much pressure there was on that next pass. I think she's got a relatively simple pass to Slope here, but with a few bodies in the centre, maybe she doesn't quite pick out exactly how close Zulay Senstorado is, and look, we've seen Gomez really deal. This time it's getting out wide there, and not just lateral, but stepping backwards a little bit to create that angle to get it and crane that disc around the mark into the end zone for the score.
Well, if you ignore the first chunk of points on the scoreboard, that 6-0 lead, since then we've been trading point for point. I mean, they've left it far too late, I think, to get involved, because you've got just under an hour left, but Grut only have to punch 6 more on the scorecard, and they will take themselves into that final berth.
Yeah, and in bracket play, you don't need to worry about, you know, are we winning 15-2, or not that that's going to happen, obviously, but, you know, whether it's 15-12, 15-8, whatever, as long as you get yourself over the line, that's all that matters.
So for now, it's Grut just looking to try and maintain focus, and that is a beaut of a bucket. Twister goes up, never in doubt.
As soon as Leshnik got that from that lovely leading pass from Tizik, just dropping the body weight as well to really get down and get the inside flick under the mark to Leshnik. I felt like she only ever had one thing in mind there, and it feels like Talista's her favourite target. That's part of the reason why they're both on this O-line, because they're so comfortable playing with each other, even though this is their first season doing so. Just putting it deep out into space and trusting Talista has that speed to answer the call, and she's proven time and time again that she does.
Well, an athlete we know has a full emotional and ultimate range is Christina Tluster. Of course, had a bitter defeat in the bracket play at the U24 Championships. Her last year of eligibility, I believe, in that age category with the mixed team from the Czech Republic.
Yeah, they fell to Singapore 12-10, I think, in the quarterfinal. A game that, you know, I think they'll look back on and say we didn't necessarily play our best. There were key moments that didn't go our way that, you know, maybe could we have composed ourselves better? Is there something we could have done differently? But you can't dwell on that. Got to say, actually, you know what? Came 6th, I think, in the end. That's still a pretty good result.
Absolutely. I certainly know that Mikey Lunn, who was a last-minute addition to the coaching set for that team, was very proud of that finish. A very small ultimate nation going toe-to-toe with the best of them.
Now, they do have some pedigree, though. Picked up gold medals at European Youth in the women's division.
They certainly have, Benj. It's always wonderful watching these smaller nations really just pushing up to the top of the standings. Of course, Grut, the Netherlands, is not a particularly large mass of land either. And looks to be Minard on the chase there, trying to get the disc away from Aguilar. That one sails too high. What a fantastic grab. I mean, it's just the overshot, but still the rip down from Lola Dam.
Yeah, you think, did she need to catch it? But you should always try and catch it if you can, because it means that immediately you're straight on offense and there's no chance of someone nipping in behind.
Minar calling for space there, a little bit too much touch on the mark from Aguilar, and that's an easy find again, just hitting the break side, and a continuation in the end zone works out. It's yet another on the board, and it's a break in the hands of Lisa Hochab.
I mean, at this point, if you put together all 4 of Lisa Walrab's scores, you'd notice a particular pattern, and it's getting the swing towards the break side and sliding it down that line to Lisa Walrab, who has just got that innate sense of timing and positioning. She knows as soon as that swing goes, she's ready for the next pass. But what's good about it is, I think a lot of the time, when you see, I know exactly what's coming here, the temptation is to go too early because you know, oh yeah, I'm going to be open here. But what she's very good at doing is that she doesn't go too early. She delays that a little bit to make sure that actually by the time Dam looks downfield, she's not already in that space, dragging the defender in there, and meaning that there's no space for her to attack and there's no space for the throw to go. So by just holding that off a little bit, staying active, staying aware, but delaying the timing of that cut, it means that Dam can look up, and she's still got the opportunity to lead Walrab into the end zone for her 4th goal of the game.
Well, when your team scored 11 already, you can afford to be a little bit greedy. It was Bone, of course, as well on the D-lines that was snaffling them up in the early stage of this game. But Aerosol now looking to just hang on and stop that momentum train from leaving the station for Grut. Nice over the top, but the interruption, I think, if that had been left, may have made its way to Correa Gomez.
One of those, if you don't get the call, though, you feel like you have to go for it.
Justine van der Meulen getting things started. One of the slightly more vintage players on this Grut roster, full of youngsters, has represented the Netherlands many a time in the women's division. Oh, and that just looks too easy, doesn't it? Susanna Slob with an easy backhand to Annemarie Bone for yet another goal. We're going back to that same rhythm. Walrab and Bone just ending up in the end zone.
you don't always need to do something big and flashy to score. It's great when you do, but hey, if you just know the timings, got the synergy down of this is my job and I know when to activate, and I know that they are going to look for me in that situation as well. It gives you that extra boost of confidence. So yes, this is my time. They are going to call my number. And when they do, you're ready to answer. There's the blade over the top. One player thinks they have to go for it. If they didn't, it was dropping maybe a little bit suddenly. So would Alejandro Correa Gomez have got there? Maybe not. And slow, just a delicate little toss into the end zone there for Amarain Bone's third goal of the game. I wonder if they're going to keep this D-line out there, or it looks like it may be a little bit of a hybrid of their two D-line sets.
Well, this is a difficult scoreline position to find yourself in, especially in a women's semi-final. 3 points away from securing their berth into the big show tomorrow. They'll definitely be on the dance floor, though, tonight. We can guarantee it. They are every single year, and they're no stranger to a Windmill final. But the best result for a Bogota side so far was a tally of 6 for Bamboo. So if Aerosol can punch a few more into the scorecard, they will have that to credit themselves. But of course, crediting themselves from actually getting to this stage in the first place with some great results in the Swiss draw. That's a nice find for Alvarado. And a little bit of just traffic in front of the disc, even though the options are available from grinding underneath that are allowing. Hannah's drifting and clogging up space at times. That's a nice one. A bit cleaner now. Now Gomez. A little bit of separation, but still doesn't like it. It's the high stall. Nice grab for Medina Garcia. Little loft over the top. Taking the disc for a walk. And yeah, there's the travel call from Slob.
Shouldn't be a stoppage.
Sends Torado then back into play. Gomez with the hammer to open up the break side, and that will do very nicely indeed. Erika Alvarado with the goal.
It's one of the reasons why so many teams like going with a tight vertical set in the centre of the end zone. You give yourself two clear sides of the end zone to attack, because you don't necessarily have the depth to drive anymore with a big under or a huge yard gaining deep shot. So getting it in this central position here with Gomez coming over the front of the stack with just a little jab set to create that buffer, and then lofting the hammer over to the break side, because obviously you can't mark out both sides. You've got to pick one unless you really scramble around it, and it looked like Grut had begun to try and do that, but the throw came early enough that they weren't quite in position to cover it.
Well, it's clear to me that the conditioning work that Aerosol have been doing in preparation for the season has been paying off. They look still like they're within the reach of getting some more points on the board. I have to say, I think if they'd been able to bring a couple more bodies to Windmill, they might have fared a little bit better at this stage of the championship.
But of course, is it worth bringing those extra bodies if there are players who aren't necessarily going to play with you at Colombian regionals and nationals, which is the thing you're preparing for? You don't want to get into a stage where you get so comfortable with a player and then they're not going to make the trip back over, and actually a lot of the work feels like it's not been wasted, but maybe not optimised.
They can certainly fly back, because that one flies to the end zone, and who else underneath it? Flor Coulartz, but doesn't make the bid and smacks it out of her own hands with the knee.
Yeah, a little bit lackadaisical with it, because she'd done the hard work and covered the ground really well, and then just stuck out the right hand, expecting it to nestle, and the disc evidently had other ideas. See it again here. Leshnik only ever had one thing in mind, and it drops a little bit at the very end, and maybe you think if you go with two hands you give yourself a little bit more of an opportunity to prevent that happening. You can get a bit more underneath it, but then also your body's perhaps not quite in the right position as you're running a bit more laterally compared to the path of the disc.
So a big break chance here for Aerosol. They've not managed to get one past Grut's line yet, but that one just going for yards to play more defence.
Yeah, if you can't find anything, put it deep, because you never know, someone might be able to answer the call, and if not, well then at least you're gaining some field position, and you're making Grut have to work nearly the full length of the central zone, where the formidable Paula Bass will bring them into play.
And of course, Grut are missing Sarah Jekland, who unfortunately took an injury at the European Masters Championship with the mixed team, got silver a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, came up just shy in defending their gold medal. They were knocked off by Belgium in the final.
Big shout out to her, and hopefully she'll be able to recover for the EUCS postseason. But that is the error. Bus lays out, but can't quite make the inches.
It's the first time all game the decider's tended over multiple possessions on the same point.
That went a little bit high, great pressure from Kularts, and just manages to avoid contact completely, scooping over the top. Love that body control. Nice fine through from Gomez. Aguilar now puts it up. Correa Gomez matched up with Leshnik. Sneaks it through like that inside channel to Gomez. And again, they're just slipping them through that inside break channel repeatedly. Nice jab step from Gomez. Natalia looking for the dish, a little bit of chest bump. And the replacement through, scrambling all the way. Got to respect the commitment for Medina Garcia. Now Gomez again, just really marshalling at this point. Correa Gomez pops through. Still count starting to really notch up. But again, Medina Garcia just delivering the underneath. Just when it is needed. Little bot fake. Oh, that is some creativity. And it might just work, you know. It does! Natalia Gomez with the snatch. And that's a break for Aerosol.
1, 2, 3 bodies in the area. And it's maybe the smallest of them all, Natalia Gomez, who had the read, had the connection, got the eyes, the signal from a backfield teammate of exactly what they wanted. Here was the deep shot to no one, but we mentioned it's not always a bad thing to play for field position because there's just more time, more space and more potential for an error to come. That time, Jette Bardol's throw is offline. Creative option here from Henny Valentina, Medina Garcia, and with 3 bodies in the area, it's Gomez who wants us to call and then gets a big hug from her Sixers teammate, Aurora Leshnik. It looks like a timeout called here by Grut because it's got a little bit, I don't want to say sloppy, but certainly that that point for the O-line was not up to their usual standards.
Well, it's been a crystal crisp, clean performance so often for the D-line. But perhaps that lack of points being played in this match because it has been rotation through the defensive sets. I mean, they didn't come onto the pitch for their 6 points of the game.
Always a strange game as an O-line because you love those games where you don't really have to do anything because your D-line gets on a roll, and then afterwards you feel like I don't know, sometimes you don't quite feel part of the game. It's a tricky thing where you want to be involved and you want to be active and you want to be playing, but also if your D-lines are constantly out there, then it's a great thing because it means that they're constantly getting breaks.
Just got to sideline harder. That's how you involve yourself.
True. A really underrated position is the sideline.
So Gomez staying out on the pitch. Of course, the timeout giving a much needed breather for Aerosol. Well, both teams have now used all of their extra breaks in this one with just under 40 minutes left of regulation time. We are now in bracket play, so we get proper caps as opposed to the ability for, in the Swiss draw, teams to literally draw. It's unusual. It turns out, Benji, actually, there's a little thing on ulti.org that
this says a draw. Are you sure?
Yeah. Do you need to correct it?
And yes, we're very sure the algorithm doesn't quite work without draws being a possibility.
Bus, nice one out, leading to Bardul. Now Leshnik. Underneath. Leshnik attacks that inside channel again. Kularts. Surely he's a little bit tempted by a big hammer. Although that's more Bus's speciality. Here to stand yelling exactly that word. Oh, but I think something's flown into the eye of Polar Bus. He just...
Awkward one.
Perhaps a little bit of cork. I think they're coming off for an injury. Will be replaced by who else but Anna Menard.
Not a bad player to come on as a steady fulcrum for your O-line.
Oh, that's a spicy throw into the bread box perfectly for Flo Coularts. Now a little bit of a Swiss play there. End zone action. Leshnik now racing around, but the stall count getting higher and higher. It's a blade and it's a layout grab for the goal. And a little cuddle between Gomez, who signals the goal.
There might be discussion about whether there's a stall out, though, on the throw. You could tell that it was getting into a high stall with Coularts. Players really trying to attack the front line, but it made things very crowded and congested.
Well, I would definitely think that's a fair discussion to be had. So contested stall out. That one will exist in the annals of time for free on YouTube because it was streamed, but you're going to have to do it again.
Yeah,
so coming back in on 8.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
We're so synchronised.
Get out of my head.
We should be a swim team.
God, no.
It's a shame we don't have the ball pit this year that you can go swimming in. But it's a high release anyway, and Christina Kluster just with the eyes on the prize. Nothing Alvarado could do. A little bit of face marking caught in the end zone. So 2 away from the final now. Archert. Aerosol did get that one break to their tally. Let's see if they can level up the score, or even for some more than their fellow Bogota side, Bamboo.
Yeah, for Christina Tolusta, it's weird because you feel like the O-line's not been that involved, and she's had, not a barnstormer of a game, but 2 goals, an assist and a block is a very tasty stat line. Also, I'm not sure how that child managed to get up there. So, not quite sure about that one. So, just want to see. So, want to have a look there. If we pause it, the player I want to point out here is number 64. There for Aerosol, because they're putting on a lot of the time you'll hear what we call a face mark, and what that means is that you're looking at your matchup and you're not actually looking at the thrower. So in this case, even though you can't quite see it on that angle, but when they come back in off the second resumption, what happens is the field of vision, and you'll see it here, she's looking entirely downfield rather than where the disc is, so it means you can just pop it over her head, and by the time she sees it, it's already in Tolusta's hands.
Yeah, it's something you kind of can get away with a lot more when you're matching up sort of in the centre field with a handler, perhaps, that kind of, back and forth, really trying to go for the smother cover. But they talk a lot in kind of defensive techniques about triangulating, so you have a bit more awareness, still staying very agile on the balls of the feet, but not giving up the vision of what the thrower is doing. I
mean, in the end zone, especially where there is less space, generally, the windows that you throw into are probably going to be a little bit smaller. And so it could be sometimes someone's not even necessarily free. They're being marked by a defender who's close. But the fact that they just can't see it means that you can sneak it past their ear holes.
Well, Aerosol throwing a couple of skylights over the jaws of the much-awaited zone.
Is that a little woosion for you there? Skylight. I'm into it.
Well, we're not playing indoors, so there are no literal roof appendages to hit. You do sometimes see that at the indoor championships, which now officially exist on European soil. We had some in Lithuania and Denmark.
You mean you weren't talking about the wall-to-wall soccer complex at WAC in 2018?
Well, that was a memory for sure, but that's one that's going to come back to bite Gomez. Of course, has been pulling plenty of duty in the latter stages of this game. Going for the pre-start? No, just adjusting the laces, but a slow walk for Van der Meulen. Oh, isolation, disconnect for the handlers. It's going to be a reach and great grab for Elisa Boss. Oh, and the continuation is there to deliver, but The second effort again. Lustigron hitting the deck, but that's 2 slightly miscued throws.
Yeah, the first one I think just led her a little bit too far in front, and the problem with that is because she's on the stretch and she's trying to go into it, she's still carrying a little bit of forward momentum, and so she is able to get her feet set and balanced. But I think maybe sometimes in those scenarios you can do with just taking a breath and making sure you're properly still and reset before taking on that throw, because as you saw, maybe it was a little bit rushed because it couldn't hook up with Lustigron, but that blade is also off target and it'll go back to Grut.
Yeah, it was a nice idea the first time they had the opportunity, but on the second ask, just too spicy. Van der Meulen, this time it is weighted to perfection, just softly into the hands of Anne Schneider.
Yeah, evidently some sort of miscommunication, blown coverage. Grut, no time like the present. And they're very much in the mood to take the quick pick up and go, because you can get opportunities like this where the defenders perhaps aren't quite sure precisely who they're matched up against, and you get a wide open throw. More and more I think you see teams integrating the quick pick up into their game. There was a time, especially in the red zone, we'll take our time, we'll go slow, we'll get a nice solid setup, clear isolations. But more and more I think teams are being encouraged and coached to play fast, because I'm going to make this thematically appropriate. I think I heard Brian Jones phrase it this way: it's easier to tell a team whoa than it is to giddy up. Like if you're used to playing fast, generally it's a bit easier to say, okay, on this occasion, no, we've got time. It's actually going to behoove us to take a breath and slow play things a little bit. But if you're a team that's used to playing slow and then suddenly you need to play fast, you will always feel rushed, and generally it's easier to get people to take their foot off the gas a little bit. You see it a lot in other sports as well. They'll teach you kind of how to really go for it and then ease back a little bit so that you're in control.
Well, a little update from the other side of the women's bracket. Tokyo Mavericks, who were looking like they might concede a loss to East Block, have now turned that score around considerably, 10-6. So Grut, can they do it on a break, or will Aerosol equal the best tally of any of the Colombian sides so far? Of course, they're using this tournament, as we said, to prepare for regionals and nationals back home later on this year. Ramos sends it way too high on us, running out of time. They'll jog away. Lolodam has Minard up line. It's going to have to be an eyes on the prize. Big pack of Colombian players underneath it. Gomez takes a little bit of a knock, but then quickly finds the target.
Look for the swing.
Dam with that high release. Saw so many of them in the early stages of the game. Rilla Janssen. Easy one leading, but it's smacked down by Valentina Ramos.
Yeah, it seemed like it was an easy one, but I think Ramos there had the same idea that leading throw is going to go when Minard decided to clear out. Janssen probably been a bit of a sitting down on that one and getting a bit more pointed inside-out shape to curl it away from the defender's path.
Lola Dam swats it, well, just the air, and wafts the disc away. Minard breaks to Wallcrab. Doesn't like the look upfield and just takes the easy reset. Could have been greedy and jumped over the tape there, but a pick will send it back. Yeah,
I think especially wise because of the pick, because imagine if you tried to jump it in and then drops it, he'd have felt like a right mug.
We don't use mug enough. That's Kelsey Wentling. First time I think we might have seen her on the pitch doing bits. Oh, that is just cheeky as it gets. The elevator goes up and comes back down. Down with the closing goal of the game, and that just looked so good.
Minard loves that throw. That high release just leading Dam into space. Grut today were too good. They had a couple of patches where some errors crept into their game. Certainly at the very end, their D-line was generating opportunities. They lost a little bit of that clinicity they had in the first period of the game, because the first 6 points, Grut started on defense, got the disc, and immediately punched it in. It was brutal stuff in the best way from Grut, and Aerosol really had no answer. It just felt that they ran out of steam in this contest. For them, they'll go into the third place game tomorrow. They'll, I'm sure, have a good time at the party tonight. But for Grut, one more game separates them from a Windmill gold medal that they came so close to last season.
Indeed, Benji. Well, who will be facing off against them? That game not quite reached its conclusion on the other side of our women's bracket. At the moment, it's Mavericks having put one more on the board since we last updated the score there. Of course, the All Access on the other side of the pitch as well. But it looks pretty good for Mavericks over East Block to see us into our women's final tomorrow. Of course, all the teams that do not make that title match will be playing their first game. We're going to have some full stands. It's going to be a real great vibe.
I love Windmill finals day. There's nothing quite like it. The crowd are raucous and rabid and lit, and generally the teams playing know how to put a spectacle on, and it'll be an absolutely bumper finals day. Our first finalist has been confirmed, and Grut women will be back in the final tomorrow afternoon.
They certainly shall, Benji. Well, that game had a little bit of everything and the kitchen sink. I remember that first goal that we got on the board where Aerosol took a little leaf out of Grut, but with the high release. But it really was just an ownership of the bigger spaces as well as the smaller balls. Softer defense with the short roster for Aerosol. Gave some opportunities, but quirky creativity was the name of the game before the points they did put on the board. Big bids as always across the field. We'll be keeping our eyes on that women's final tomorrow, which will be happening. But don't go anywhere, folks. The rest of the games to conclude our semi-finals for today. But Grut over Aerosol with ease, 15-5.